Okay, welcome everyone to today's webinar. My name is Charlie Taylor. I'm one of the CE consultants here at KDLA. I'm facilitating the webinar. As I go through this introductory information, again, just want to encourage everybody to complete the polls there. Here you just have another 30 seconds or so to get your answers in on those. It'll give us a little bit of feedback about where you all stand, where your libraries stand on board games currently. I want to welcome today's presenter, Mercedes Mclean. She's the teen librarian at the Scott County Public Library, and she's going to be sharing her knowledge with us today. I'll turn the presentation over to her in just 1 second. A couple of housekeeping things. If you have any questions for Mercedes as we go along, please feel free to chat those in. If you want to share ideas with each other, things that you've done that have worked, that'll be great too. Chat those in. At the end of today's presentation, also I should say chat in if you have any technical issues, and I'll be here to help with that. At the end of the presentation, you'll be able to download your own copy of these slides that you can save to your computer. You can use them for the future, share them with your colleagues, whatever you'd like to do. You'll also be getting an email from me within about the next week or so that will have a certificate of attendance as well as a link to a survey that we would appreciate your feedback on about today's presentation. So before I change the screen over, I just want to broadcast the results of our polls. For the question, does your library provide board games to your patrons? So it looks like the majority of you do. Do you provide board game related programming though? So that's a little more split, and I know Mercedes is going to address that today, so we're about 50-50 on that one. I'm going to go ahead and change the screen over to get ready for our presentation. So maybe you guys will get some great ideas today on programming. So Mercedes, if you'd like to go ahead and unmute your phone, it's the *#, and you can take over.
Hi, I'm Mercedes Mclean, and when I first started doing board gaming programming, I was actually working at Clark County Public Library in Winchester. I'm now the teen librarian at Scott County, and it's something I feel very passionate about, and we're going to be talking a lot about what exactly board gaming is now. It's definitely not anything that is Risk and Monopoly. It's very different. It's changed. And thank goodness for that. There are awesome versions of Risk, though. If you wanted to play Doctor Who Risk, which my kids love, they have made lots of different classical board games into these weird different versions that we have now. You know, there's 50 million monopolies, but they also have life versions that are My Little Pony themed. So there's all these different themed ones now. If you do want classical board games for your library, these are a little bit funner. These options are a little more interesting. They have a Firefly Clue now, and you're in space, which is great. And so board gaming, it's making a huge resurgence. There's all these different themed board games now that are really including pop culture, and it's something that's really super hot. People in 2013 spent $700 million on the hobby market. And the hobby market includes board games, trading card games, and other RPGs like Tabletop, like Dungeons & Dragons manuals and such. And in 2014, that number actually reached $880 million. And this is an article from BBC, and if you download my presentation slides, there is a link to that article, as well as a couple more updated articles that's been published since as well, if you want to read those. And it's becoming such a hot commodity that it's even being published in our own journals. This is an article from Voya this year in February. If you get Voya at your library, look this article up. It was really, really well done. It's a really interesting way they talk about how it's becoming, board gaming is becoming so hot, I think, in a lot of ways, because it's really connecting with millennials and people who are teens and in their 20s, because we have so much technology now. It's a way to put the technology away and actually communicate with other people and sit down in an environment and have a conversation and play a game in a way that you don't feel social interaction or awkwardness because you're actually doing something. And I think that's one of the big things of why board gaming is becoming so prevalent, is because it is a way to communicate with other people without that technology, with a way to put down the technology and have actual human interactions, which is great. Board gaming is becoming so popular now that it's actually becoming a game for people, funded by people. And I put this in here just to give you a little idea about it. Exploding Kittens. This is a really crazy little card game that was published last year, and it was put on Kickstarter. And it raised $9 million in 30 days. $9 million from people who wanted to see this card game actually made. Which is kind of crazy. And so people are the ones that are actually wanting these games made, and they are being made. You can buy this game actually at Target. I do want to forewarn you, do not buy the not safe for work version. The original version is pretty friendly. It's a card game for people who like kittens, explosions, laser beams, and sometimes goats. So it's a really weird little wacky card game that's kind of fun. And it's really easy to learn how to play, too. Card games are a really easy way to go if you have somebody who's maybe intimidated by all the pieces of new board games that are these designer board games. Card games, they can be just fun. So why board games? And why should you be promoting them in your library? No matter what your audience is, adults, teens, kids, board gaming is an activity that is promoting your brain to grow, think, and explore the world. It does promote reading. It promotes comprehensive skills. It promotes team building and cognitive learning. Those kids that are in your library already playing Magic the Gathering, they are not goofing off. They are actually strategizing. They're learning, their brains are growing as they play that game and learning how to put their monsters out there and take down their enemies. And it's by us promoting board gaming, we're actually promoting literacy too. And I think that's something we all need to realize. It's not just for fun. We are promoting those different literacy things. So why do I know so much? Well, I have a huge problem. I have an addiction to board gaming. This is a picture of my old collection, actually. I have 5 shelves now that are completely full. I have somewhere over 250 board games. We haven't done a count in a while, but it's somewhere over there. I have an entire room dedicated in my house just for board gaming. We have a board gaming table that's like our special board gaming table. We have our special shelves and lighting and everything because our friends, they really like to come over and play board games, and it's just a way for us all to hang out together, you know. And it's gotten to the point where I actually have it in spreadsheets now. This is my Google spreadsheet. I have each game that I own listed, and then the number of players, and so I can actually, you know, search by different things. And then I kind of got crazy, and I decided that my shelves, I didn't like the way everything was. So if you have a lot of board games, you might want to try this idea out. If you have a lot of board games for your library, I created actually my own Dewey Decimal System-ish for my board game collection, and that's just a kind of a way for me to catalog everything. So I have like all my board games separated by genre, and then they're actually categorized by name and the date they were published, and yeah, it's kind of insane. But if you have a lot of board games for your library, you might want to think about trying to create your own, you know, cataloging system just so that they're all in the same way. And so that's why I know a lot. So you're here today because you either have a board gaming program at your library and want to expand upon your selection, or because you're hopeful to start a new program at your library. So regardless of where you are in that process, I want to share some resources that might aid you. First, you really need to find your community, and you can find your community in a lot of different ways. This was one that a friend had given me. This is the League of Librarian Gamers, and it's a Facebook group, and they are really great and friendly. They will not judge you if you know absolutely nothing. You can post all your questions to their board, and other librarians all across the country will answer your questions. And this was actually how I first got my start about getting board game donations, which is a whole separate other thing. But I wrote to the League of Librarian Gamers. I was like, how do I go about getting donations for my library? Because I didn't want to spend a lot of money. And they told me about writing different places and where I could probably get some donations. Looney Labs actually did donate some board games to the library I was working at the time, and they donated a bunch of card games, and it was really great. And it was the first time I'd ever thought about actually going to the makers of these board games and trying to get them to help me out, expand my collection, and then also, they're really passionate too. Some of these board gaming companies, they're really passionate about bringing these games to the kids in your community. So that's really great. If you're lucky to live in a big city, I would suggest patronizing your local board game or comic book store. And I really like Collectibles Except in Lexington. This one is off Richmond Road. They are primarily a comic book store, but they have a really serviceable board game selection, and everybody there is very, very friendly. And they are very friendly to nerd girls. They actually have a nerd girl comic book group that meets once a month, which is great. And they're just really, really nice, and they'll order anything you want to. A-Plus Comics in Lexington is another really great place to get your board games. They have a lot of old vintage games from like the 70s and 80s. If you're looking for something maybe you haven't seen in 20-plus years, they have vintage games. They also have a really great Magic the Gathering card collection if you are wanting to go that route. They also do Magic the Gathering tournaments. So if you don't know what a card game tournament looks like, go over there on a Saturday or Sunday and just see how they put things together and how it flows. Their tournaments are usually pretty big on the weekends. If you are a little bit more north of that, there's a board game store in Louisville that I really like called Something to Do. And it used to be in the Oxmoor Mall, but they've moved to a new stand-up location now. And it's just a really great little place, and they have lots of board games and all kinds of fun things they do. Also, when you download the slides at the end of the presentation, I have put the URLs for all of these places, so don't worry about trying to write it all down. And one of the newest board game stores that's opened in Lexington this past year is Legendary Games in Lexington. This place is a hop and a skip away from Breakout Games, which if you've never done a Breakout Games, you really should. Might be another really fun gaming program you could do for your library. And if you don't know what Breakout Games are, I'll explain real quick. They are a game where they lock you in a room for an hour, and then you have an hour to try to find all the clues in the room to find a special code to get out of the room. And it's just really fun. They're all different themed. They have a Derby heist one where you have to break into somebody's house and steal back the Derby trophy, which is great. But they're really close near Breakout Games, and they just opened up. They really have a nice collection, and they have a gigantic room in the back where you can play board games, like gigantic, and everybody's really, really friendly there. And if you don't mind driving a little bit, one of my favorite places in the entire world is in Richmond, Kentucky, and it's Cafe Meeples. And they are a board gaming cafe. What is a board gaming cafe, you ask? Well, you go in and you order food, and they have the most delicious grilled cheese sandwiches and Chipotle mac and cheese ever and bubble tea, just so you know. And then you can sit around, eat your lunch, and play all of their board games. They have over 100 board game selections. They have tons of board games you can play for free, so you can try out your hand about board games that maybe you're not sure whether you want to buy for your collection or not before you buy them, because board gaming can get really expensive very quickly. And this is a really nice, easy way to try out things before you go and buy them, because at the end of the day, only you are going to know if your kids will actually play a game or not. And they also are very heavily into the local community, which I absolutely love. They were the board game room sponsors a couple years back for the Lexington Comic Book Convention. They try to stay pretty active in the community, which is great. So what if I don't have an awesome board game store? I can't get to someplace. I live in a rural community. Well, if you don't have a lot of money to spend, I would say most of my board games actually come from Amazon. You will not find prices cheaper anywhere else. But I also really, really like to use CoolStuffInc.com, which is a website that is just for board game buying. That's all they have. They're based out of Florida, and they have really great sections if you're looking for new games that you've maybe never heard of. They do have a great pre-order section. This is actually how I find out about a lot of games before they are going to come out, because there's so many board games that are published every year, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. And you can also, they have a top sellers bar, and I like to see what people are actually buying in real time, which is nice. And if you are doing board gaming for children, elementary children, they have a great section that's just family board gaming. So these are like games based on popularity for families, children's games. And so there's probably a lot of titles you've never heard of before on there, but they actually do make new board games just for children that are these like based on, you know, these designer board games, which is great. And it's a really great way to try out new things. And they also have product descriptions and reviews, and that's a really great way to hear from people in the community, too, about whether their kids like a game or not. So, and I forgot about this slide. This is Mercedes' top 10 board games for kids. Somebody asked me a while ago to come up with a list for an elementary school board gaming that they were doing at their library, and I had to stop and think about it. I was like, yes, I've done family gaming before, but what are my favorite games for kids? And these are just a few of them. Telltale is a great game, especially if you have kindergartners. It will kids have the greatest imagination, and so it's a storytelling card game. And you flip the cards, and you'll have a picture, and one kid will start the story. Oh, there's a giraffe, and he's going to outer space. And the next kid will flip a card, and there's an ocean. The giraffe was in outer space, and his plane crashed into the ocean, and so on and so forth. So you have these crazy stories. Aquarius is a great game for preschoolers. It's a matching game. You're matching the different elements, so like fire to fire, water to water, and it's teaching them about space, and it's almost like dominoes in some way. The Magic Labyrinth is a great game. It won I can never say it, Killed a Spiel Award, which is like it was like a German award that's given to the best game for children. And it's so great. There's this, underneath the board there are walls, and you have a magnetic pawn that you move through the labyrinth. But if you hit a wall, the magnetic ball disconnects from the pawn, and you have to reconnect it and start all over again. So it's teaching them memory, which is really great. And there's another website you should be aware of that you can order from as well, is Ingram. Does anybody, their library buy from Ingram? Does anybody? Anybody? Yes. Okay, so Ingram has board games. What? Yes. They have board games, and you can get them 40% off. 40%, and you can order from them. Now, I will forewarn you that sometimes it might take a little bit longer because sometimes they don't have a lot on hand and they have to reorder. But these 6 board games right here on the bottom of the screen, you could buy all of those for $100. $100 you could get 6 board games. I'm actually going to be using this a lot. When we move into our new teen section, I'm going to have some shelves that I'm actually going to be able to put board games on for the teens, and I'm going to be ordering from Ingram. It is going to make my money stretch so much more, and I'm going to be able to order so much. I've got an entire list. So really great place to take if you're going to order for your library and you already have an account with them. Easy peasy. So websites. There's a lot of different websites out there. A lot. If your kids come to you and say, I want Dead of Winter, the board game, and you have no idea what that is, go to BoardGameGeek.com and type it in, and this will pull up. It will tell you when it was published. It'll tell you how many players it can have. It'll tell you different awards it's won. It'll tell you the mechanic. There will be user reviews in the bottom and also video tutorials. They also have a discussion board for each and every single game. And people can post on the discussion board if there's questions about how it's played, if it's family friendly, all those questions you might have about a board game before you actually buy it. It's a really great resource to use. Blogs. Blogs are another really great way to try to find out about board games before you buy them. This is one of my favorite. It's the Board Gaming Family. It's this family, awesome family, and they play board games together, and they do reviews. And so they also have video reviews, which is really helpful. And they talk about why they didn't or didn't like the game, and then the family gets to vote on it. So the dad may really like a game, but the little kids think it was awful. And so that's kind of a great way to evaluate whether you think it'll actually, depending on what program you're doing, whether it'll be a hit or not. And they have a great little blog. Another one to use is Father Geek. I love Father Geek. Parenting better through games and geekiness. And I love this quote from his website. Father Geek believes games are an excellent medium to teach children and adults important social and cognitive skills. The game becomes the medium of the lesson and the gameplay the teacher. By participating in the games with children, parents and educators can further support the skills being taught, share in positive experiences, and obtain a deeper personal connection with all those involved. And that's so very true. I love that mantra that he has. And it's a great site that lists family-friendly games. It also lists games by the age level. And there's father-approved and child-approved ratings. And it's a great little website. I Slay the Dragon, really great other little website, has video tutorials. They also have an interview section where they talk with creators of board games that I really like. And they also have a very solid news section. So if you're wanting to keep up to date about board games that are being published, board game conferences, and community happenings, it's a really great website to use. And Tabletop. Okay, so video reviews. We're going to talk about video reviews. There is a lot out there. There's a lot of them. This is probably, if you've heard of any video game review, board game video reviews, this is probably the one you've heard of, with Will Wheaton, which, Will Wheaton. And it's on Geek and Sundry. And that is also a really great little geeky website if you've never been there before. They also have Magic the Gathering video things they do every month, which is great. And he put together Tabletop. And all 3 seasons right now are available for you to watch for free on YouTube. They are now into their 4th season, and he crowdsourced actually over $1 million in under a week. So people really like his videos. And he has a bunch of his famous friends on every other week, I guess, every other week. And they play a new board game. And so this really, you can actually see how a game gets played through, and it's really funny usually. They're not so much tutorial. I mean, they kind of are tutorials, but it's more about the fun of playing the game, their videos. They also have a lot of family-friendly episodes. They have a Catan Junior episode where Will actually plays with 9-year-olds, which is great. And Season 4 is coming in 2016, and I think they've already picked a couple of the games they're going to play. They're going to play Lanterns and Codenames, I think, this year, which is great. Here's 2 other video game review places. Shut Up and Sit Down, which Quentin and Paul, they're from New Zealand. And they have really, really great board game reviews. They're some of my favorite. They're also usually really funny. They explain more of the mechanics of how board games are played, and actually explain the different rules and everything. So if you have a confusion about how something is actually played out, it's a good place to try to learn. The other one, they also have, and Quentin and Paul have very strong accents, so if you can't understand what they're saying, you may have to watch the video more than once. The Dice Tower is by Tom Vasel. He's probably the most known name in board gaming, I would say. He is the quintessential master of board gaming reviewing. When he reviews a board game on his website, that game can be sold out on Amazon within the next hour. So many people really enthusiastically believe in what he says about a board game. His reviews are more about the mechanics and his opinion of the game. His website also has a really great list of 100 games of all time, and they're actually voted by the population. So those are the 100 board games that people actually voted for. And all those links to those websites are in the slides. Okay, so now you know where to find information about board games, video tutorials, reviews, and more. So what is the next step? Well, if you want to get really geeky, you could always go to a board gaming convention, Gen Con. Gen Con is the best attended board gaming convention in the world. The largest board gaming convention in the world is Essen, but Gen Con is where it's at. It is in Indianapolis. It is not that far away. I get to go this year. I am very, very excited. Also, since you are all educators and librarians, you can apply for something called a trade day badge, which means you get to go to the convention a day early. And on the trade day, on that Wednesday, it's just librarians and teachers and educators. You get to do special sessions. You get CE credits for that day. There's like all these sessions and conferences that you can go to and meetups that are amazing. And you can talk about, board gaming you're doing in your library and the next frontier. I'm just so very excited. It's August 4th through 7th this year, and it is the way to immerse yourself in board gaming. If you want to take it to the next level, that is it. Now, if you can't go to Gen Con, and I hadn't been able to go before because it was always like right during summer reading, you could go someplace closer. Lexington has its own board gaming convention called Lexicon, and it is in its third year now, and this year it's going to be April 22nd through 24th. And they are really great and very friendly. And they have a great board gaming library. You can go in, pay your money for the day, and they have hundreds and hundreds of board games you can go through and play test. And they have volunteers there that will actually help you play through the game, which is really nice, especially if you're scared about trying something new. And tickets are pretty cheap. I think they're like $20 maybe. For Saturday, I can't remember. They also have lots of tournaments too. They're going to do Sellers Catan tournament, Ticket to Ride tournament, D&D Attack Wing, all kinds of different things. And their Ticket to Ride tournament, you should come out and see me on Saturday because I'm going to enter it and it's going to be awesome. And so it's just a really fun little convention that's closer to home and pretty cheap if you want to just try it out. So how can you make all of this programming work for your library? You have all these different resources. So I'm going to talk to you guys about some of the programming I've done. So ALA's International Game Day. This is a great way to get started with programming at your library or expand your board gaming program you already have. And I think they have the dates for this year. I didn't have them before, and they're not in the slide because they just posted them. But this year, it's going to be November 19th, and they said that registration will open in May. So ALA's International Game Day, they had 1,257 libraries all across the world that actually participated. And they also provide a really nice little map that shows you like all the different places they're doing board gaming, which is really great. And they also give you a press kit with posters, promotional materials, and then you can sign up with them to get donations for your library. And all you have to do is fill out one little form and say, I would like board gaming donations, and they coordinate with all the publishing houses across America, and they will send you board games for free. And this is the package that I got from them. I got all kinds of really great things from Steve Jackson. I was just kind of blown away when I opened the boxes, and I was like, oh my gosh, all this stuff for free. And so I actually didn't put any of this into my collection. I took it and I used it for some of the events that I was going to be doing at the library because I wanted to make this event I didn't want to spend any money because I just wanted to try to do this as cheaply as humanly possible. And so I had a Magic the Gathering tournament that I did that day along with the board gaming library that I provided. And the kids who won the Magic the Gathering tournament, the first top two, they got a board game for free. I put a lot of the family-friendly ones away for other programs we were going to do. And I actually spent no money on ALA International Game Day. I used leftover water from another program, leftover Halloween candy from another program we had done. And then I had all these great donations, and they gave me all kinds of really cool bookmarks and promotional things in the mail. So this is a really great way to get started in doing board gaming at your library at a cost that would be less for you, which is great. If November is too far away for you and you want to do a board gaming something at your library now, April 30th is International Tabletop Day. The people over at Tabletop, Will Wheaton, who do the Tabletop video reviews, and gaming, they have the International Tabletop Day, and it's sponsored it's sponsored by Tabletop, and in 2014 it was celebrated in 80 countries over all 7 continents, and they had over 3,000 events in total. So it is a pretty big thing, which is great. And so how else can we use board gaming in our programs? And actually, you can use board gaming in your programs in a lot of different ways. It's not just having, I'm going to have a board game time from 2 to 4 p.m. There's other ways to introduce board gaming into your programs. I use it a lot with book discussions. There's so many different themed board games out there now that you can really pair them up with just about anything in your YA collection, and it kind of goes together. The Fifth Wave with XCOM, which was a alien invasion game. Pandemic, which is a fantastic, awesome cooperative game. If people do not like to play board games because they think it's too competitive, play Pandemic, because it is a game all about cooperation, and you either win together or you lose together, and the world gets ravaged by disease. So fun times. So you can pair them up with different books that you have in your library. Let's see. There's so many zombie-themed board games out there. Dead of Winter is a fantastic, fantastic, fantastic zombie game. And there's lots of things you could pair them up with. Walking Dead comics. There's actually Walking Dead board games. Some of them are good, some of them aren't. It just depends on who made it. Enclave, great little book. You could pair it up with any of them, any of these games. Zombie 15 is a really interesting board game. It's played in 15 minutes with a live soundtrack. And live soundtrack board games are, because they kind of have been peaking, but it's really interesting. And Love Letter. Love Letter is a great game that I throw in my purse, and I always keep it in my purse. It only has like 15 cards in the deck, and it's just a fun little card game that we play when we're out at dinner if we're bored. And you could totally pair it with Cinder or any kind of girly romance book. What you're trying to do in Love Letter is get your love letter to the princess so she'll marry you. And so it's just a fun little game. And my favorite board game of all time, if you have never played Tales of the Arabian Night, you should. And I know it is a really expensive board game, and I didn't buy it for a very long time because it's expensive. But do you remember Choose Your Own Adventure books? Do you remember them? Because I do. And this is a Choose Your Own Adventure board game. There is a book in this board game that is ginormous. I'd say it's like 300 pages, maybe more. And you move around the board, and then you have to go to a page in the book and make a decision, and then you flip to another page in the book and something happens to you in the board game. And so every single time you play, it is a different story. And it's really, really great. It's just so much fun. And there's other ways to do board gaming too. I do a lot of book discussions, a lot. And actually, if you're going to be at KPLA, I'm going to be there doing a session about book talking and actually how to introduce games into book talking. So, and this is one of the ways that I do it. When I go to middle schools, I really like to do different games that actually get them involved and kind of break the ice. Diary of the Wimpy has so many board games, so many that were themed off the books. And one of my favorites is Don't Scramble the Egg, which is, I'm not sure if it's in print anymore, but it's basically hot potato with Diary of the Wimpy kid themed. So, but then I take that and I will do different themes with it. So I'll give them like book things like name mystery novels, and then they have to pass the egg around and not, name a mystery novel and pass it around, and if it explodes on you, then, you're out of the game. And so there's all kinds of different ways to incorporate games into book discussions, which is really great. If you are dealing with adults, there are adult board games out there that would be great for book discussions. If you were doing Pride and Prejudice, there is a great little game that I got on Kickstarter last year called Marrying Mr. Darcy, and the object of the game is to marry Mr. Darcy, or if you don't get married, you become a spinster and die horribly alone. And it's just a great little card game, and it's very tongue-in-cheek, and, if you're going to have like an adult book discussion and they want to do, Pride and Prejudice, and they want to do that, maybe think about introducing this little card game at the end and, for half an hour or so and letting them play. So there's different ways of going about it. There's also one that's called Lords and Ladies, or Lords and Gentlemen and Ladies. I can't remember, but it's another Kickstarter game that I bought that's actually kind of based on Downton Abbey, which is fantastic. And there's lots of ways to incorporate board gaming into summer reading this year as well. There is so many board games out there that really go well with this physical fitness theme that we have this year. Rampage is a great little game. It's now called Terra in Meeple City because of copyright issues. But you play as a monster, and you are basically storming around this 3D board and flicking cars off your head and destroying buildings and eating people, which is great. And you could do Giant Twister. There's giant board games you can do. I didn't put this one in here, but they have I love the one that's like the giant Jenga tower that's made out of boxes from like soda cans, and you can have a giant Jenga tower and be playing with that. Quelfa is a great little, very silly, weird card game where it makes you do weird stuff like run around the room and stuff. It's kind of fun. It's a very active game. If you want to get super crazy with your programming, we are here at Scott County are going to be doing laser tag at the library, and it's going to be super fun. I found a laser tag rental company, and they are going to ship laser tag equipment to me, and we're going to play laser tag in the library. So you think outside the box. You can take it anywhere you want to go. This year's summer reading doesn't also just apply to physical fitness. It's also about mental fitness, and I think that's something that's really important. Chess, if you want to start a chess club at your library, it can raise your IQ, it improves your memory, it assists in your concentration, and it's actually been known to prevent Alzheimer's. And the article where I got all that information is also listed in the notes of the slide. But chess is a great thing that really helps mental fitness. So think about starting a chess club at your library. And if you don't think chess club will go over well, think about starting a brain floss club. So gaming afternoons. You could pick all kinds of games, Settlers of Catan, Ticket to Ride, Scrabble, games that involve strategies and cooperation and critical thinking. And these games can, be mental, mental health. And if you don't want to use any of those games, I have Mercedes' top 10 favorite games of 2015. A lot happened in the last year. So these games might be more appropriate for adult or teen base because of the complicated rules and warp holes that destroy ships. So these are some of my favorite games in the last year. And just always remember who your audience is when you're purchasing for your library. Shadow Hunters, which I got in the last year, I love. My kids really, really like to play Mafia a lot. And Shadow Hunters is a Japanese-themed Mafia game and with more complicated rules. And so they really like it. And they like games they can play with a lot of people together. So Shadow Hunters, you can play up to 10 people, which is great. I really like Sushi Go. Great card game. If you have maybe even older people that like to play bridge or card games, maybe try to get them outside their box and play something new. My kids really like Ticket to Ride. Trains is a great game that is basically Ticket to Ride and a card drafting game, just fabulous. Smash Up is a really fun, weird card game that maybe if you have kids who play Magic the Gathering would like to play, because you get to make all these really weird teams, fairy pirates and, dinosaurs with laser guns, And if you have any questions about any of those games, feel free to email me. I'll answer questions about anything, about any of it. And so all of this, once you kind of start putting board games into everything you're doing, it can lead to new and exciting opportunities that maybe you didn't think about before. And one of the things me doing board gaming led to was game days at the library. And we started doing Magic the Gathering tournaments a lot more. because I used it as family programming, and I would get kids from 12 all the way up to like 30 in the library. And I think it's sometimes really hard to get people in their 20s into the library, but if you offer something like this, that something they're really passionate and interested in, they will come to the library. And it was a fun thing that got started, and I would usually have 15 to 20 people in the room for 4 hours. So pretty good numbers for a program that was that long. And I just would leave out board games for, people to use in the Magic Gathering tournament. I would have 12-year-olds playing 30 years old, and everybody had a good time. Everybody was happy, and it was really great success. And here at Scott County, I'm actually going to be starting Magic Mondays this summer, so I'm going to go back to doing Magic Gathering tournaments. I've noticed that there are several teenagers who come into the library almost every day and play Magic, so I know that my group of kids is there. I know they're there. So we're going to start doing gaming again, and probably I'm going to do a trivia night as well. I've been playing board games with the kids sometimes during Tab, and we started, I brought my Geek Out, which is a really great trivia card game if you haven't bought it. And it's just really geeky trivia questions about video games and pop music and all kinds of different things. And we would play, it got to the point where my kids, they knew the last half hour of Tab, we were gonna play Geek Out. They wanted to play trivia, so we might do like an actual trivia night at some point. I think that's all I have. I just talked for 40 minutes. So if you guys have questions, I know that was a lot of information. I will take any questions you guys have because I know board gaming can be confusing, and anything you have to ask me, go for it. Yeah. I'll take questions about anything. How does board gaming work in your libraries? That's actually a really good question I would like from you guys. How do you handle board gaming in your library, if you do board gaming? Yes, board gaming is very complicated. That is why there are so many video tutorials, and that's why I gave you guys so many resources about it. My kids pick up rules pretty quickly, but I mean, anybody who can play Magic the Gathering and understand how all the rules in that game work can pick up rules for other games pretty quickly. And so I have problems sometimes with instruction, and that's why YouTube is a great resource. But once you find something out, or yeah. Yeah, family fun nights. Yeah, I used to do those as well. They bring in lots of different people, and adults too, playing with with their kids in the library. I think is always really great. You're creating a family social interaction, which is so important nowadays without technology. And trivia, where do you get your questions, adults or teens? My trivia, I make up a lot of it. I like to go to trivia nights, and so I kind of based a lot of that going to trivia nights, how I set my stuff up. Like I will bring my phone and my speakerphone, and I will plug in a music playlist, and so I quiz them on different music. Like I'll do music genres in the 1980s, who sang it, and then they will be in groups, and then I'll have like pieces of paper with like where they write in their answers, and so we'll do like different rounds. So like round one will be famous people, and I'll show them pictures of people who are in the news, and then they have to, in their group, they'll have to write down who the person is, or I'll ask them trivia questions from, I've bought in a lot of different trivia game sets, honestly. I had a Doctor Who one at one point. Geek Out, like I said before, is one of the best trivia card games for, I think, teens and adults. Some of the questions in there are really adult based, so my teens won't know, and I'll skip over the question. So Trivia Pursuit is what comes to mind. Yeah, there's so many other options out there now. I got another one that was there was another geeky trivia box one I bought, and it was like Battle of the Geeks or something, and it's just trivia questions, like geeky pop culture stuff that they really, really like. I have found that that is way more popular than name presidents or questions like, who's on the, I don't know, who's in the Senate, like, questions about Doctor Who and, geeky questions are just a little bit, they like that. They like that kind of stuff. So you actually put, Toby, you have a stand with your display and the rules on it. I love that. One of the things I did when I did the family game nights is I actually, inside all the box, I made Mercedes Easy Rules, and so it was just a sheet inside the box that explained setup and what they needed to know actually to get started. And that made it a lot easier, I think, for parents who were maybe they didn't want to look dumb in front of their kid if they didn't know how to play something. So those rules were really easy then for them to understand and how to start the game, and so they were more adaptable then. One or two games to put in the teen area to start out. That's a hard question because it's really up to your teens, what kind of kids you have. Like I said before, if you have kids that are playing Magic the Gathering, Smash Up is a great, great game for them. There are a couple of games I really like. I think Pandemic is a really nice, easy kind of board game that gets kids more into stuff because it's a cooperative game. There's a lot of kids out there that will not play board games because they do not like to be competitive. They don't. And so having cooperative games where you either all win or lose together, are really, really great. I wouldn't start out with anything like Tales of the Arabian Night because that is a really complicated game. But Settlers of Catan is always, I think it's Settlers of Catan, but I always say Catan. I don't know why. Settlers of Catan is a really great gateway board gaming. We have gateway board gaming games, and that's a really good one to use. I like card games, though. Card games that you can put out are easy to learn, and they are there's less setup and there's less scary parts or not understanding what's going on. So like I said, even some of those games that I had up there for kids, like Telltale and stuff, your teens, if they've never played board games and they pick that up and they start telling stories with that, there's no, they could go anywhere. What's a good game for families that you would recommend? I love Flux. There's a family-friendly Flux game, and there's all kinds of different Flux games. There's Oz Flux, there's Zombie Flux. Don't buy some of the buy the family-friendly versions of Flux. They also just came out with a Batman Flux, super fun. And it's a card game that can be played, and the rules when you first start out the game are draw one card, play one card, and that's it. From there, you have to read cards and things get complicated, but it is a really fun little fast game that's played. They also make different versions of Love Letter now, which is a great game if you've never played any card game ever. They made a Lord of the Rings version of Love Letter. There's a Batman version now that's really fun. I don't know if that Batman will be kid-friendly, though. Might not be family-friendly. Love Letter is more for teens, I would think. But Flux is a great little card game. Telltale is a great game for families. Fantastic games for families, especially because they're learning storytelling skills. They're learning to communicate with each other and use words, maybe, and pictures together. And so it's a really great game to have. I love that. I also really like the Magic Labyrinth game. It's really hard to explain how that game works. As soon as you see it, of course, it makes sense, but there's like different parts to it. Which can be complicated. Any more questions from anybody? Oh, okay. And also, feel free to email me. My email address is mercedes@scottpublib.org. If you have questions for building your own collection, feel free to email me. I'm in the process of trying to build our board gaming collection for our teen section, and so I love, getting ideas from other people. And I actually have a question for you guys before we go. What board game in your library gets the most use? Trouble and Sorry. And so they have great themes of those, like Trouble and Sorry. They have like R2D2 themed Operation, which I have, which is great. They have the My Little Pony version of Life. I mean, there's Mario Checkers now and Mario Chess and the classics. They will get used, and if you can have those weird themed versions, I think maybe that's a gateway to get them to try other things as well. It can be difficult to learn new games if they're not familiar with them. But like I said before, adding those sheets into every game, like with easy setup rules and everything, and it kind of makes it easier, I think. What board gaming times work for me? I did Sunday afternoons. And that worked out really well. If you're going to do a Magic Gathering tournament, you need to have at least 4 hours. That is just the way of it. You need to have at least 4 hours. And I'm going to try to do a small Magic the Gathering tournament next week, but I know I won't have that many teens show up because it's spring break week, so I know I'll probably have 3 or 4 kids. So we can do it in 2 hours. But if you're going to do a Magic Gathering tournament, you need 4 hours. And if you're going to do like a regular board gaming thing, just make sure, oops, I didn't mean to go that far back, whatever. And just make sure that it's times that work for your teens. Like right now, I'm kind of experimenting with times myself here. I'm going to try to do Magic Mondays and do it from 6 to 8 or 6 to 8:30. We'll see how it works. And I think I'm actually going to do 2 different tournaments going on at the same time, so that way I don't have to do it in 4 hours. I can do it in 2.5. And I guess family board gaming always usually does really well after school, like right after school lets out. But that also kind of depends on, your community as well. Apples to apples. Yes, apple to apples works great. Okay. Yay, there's the awesome thing. Do we have any other questions or anything else? Yeah. Make sure to download my PowerPoint slides if you want all those links. I know I went through them kind of fast, but I had a lot of URLs in there for different places, and there's a lot of really great further reading that you can do.
Mercedes, this is Charlie. I'm just going to jump on real quick. There's 2 downloads actually in that box.
Okay.
For some reason, I didn't realize that your slides had the resources attached to the notes. So the first one that says Geek Chic PDF is literally just full-size slides. If you want, I'm sure everybody is going to want your notes. So you're probably going to actually want to download the second one as well, which is the notes and resources. So it'll still have a picture of the slide, but then underneath it, it'll have all the resources and everything that Mercedes referred to during her presentation. So you'll probably want to download both of those. So sorry about that.
That's fine. Thank you all so much for participating today. I had a great time. I hope I didn't go too fast. And if you do have any questions about anything in there, just please feel free to email me. I know it can be kind of confusing. All right. Are we good, Charlie?
We're good. Thank you so much to everybody for attending today, and special thank you to Mercedes for being here with us today and sharing her vast knowledge of board gaming. It was awesome. You're like motivating. I want to go out and buy stuff.
Go to a board game convention. Everybody can go to Lexington. It's in Lexington. It's not that far away, and it is really a great little convention. So
it looks like fun. Yeah,
yes.
That's very. Yeah, I think I might.
Yeah, so much fun. And take your kids. They have a family-friendly Sunday. On Sundays, they do half price for families, and you get a badge for you and your kids, and it's really cheap.
Wow, that's cool.
Yes, their Sunday family day badge is so cheap if you and your kids want to go. So it's great. All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for being here.
Thanks,
Bye.
everybody. And I'm going to send out your certificates hopefully within probably closer to the beginning of next week. And when you guys are ready to exit, just click the X in the top right-hand corner of the screen. Thanks, everybody, for attending. And thanks again, Mercedes. We really appreciate your time.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.